There is a secret best handling motorcycle that Harley Davidson makes that you should know about before you buy your next Harley Davidson motorcycle. Welcome to Motos, Cades, and Coffee. So you think Harley Davidson's motorcycles cannot handle? You're wrong. They make the FXDR, they make the Roadster, they make the Livewire, they make the Fat Bob. They all can handle pretty darn good. So you can check out, there's a guy right here that he rides so fast on this cruiser type motorcycle. Very cool. I don't recommend you ride like this, but it can be done. There's a secret Harley Davidson motorcycle that handles better than anything else right now. It's a Clark Kent of all the Harley Davidson motorcycles. Let's get to it. I'll show you what it is and why it is the best handling Harley Davidson motorcycle. They say if you buy a motorcycle and you don't look back after you get off your ride, because it looks so good that you bought the wrong motorcycle. That's a bunch of baloney. If you don't look back at your motorcycle because it was such an amazing ride and how it made you feel, then you bought the wrong motorcycle. And I look back every time I ride it. Without further ado, in case you didn't notice, it is the Harley Davidson Lowrider. Not the Lowrider S, the standard Lowrider. This is mine, it's a 2018. I've done a little bit of work to it. But I'll tell you why it is the best handler. It has a 114 stage 3 kit on it. Makes 111 horsepower, 124 pounds of torque. New exhaust, new seat, new handlebars, which you almost need to make it a best handler. But that's about it. It has a combination of handling, of comfort, ground clearance, agility, stability, that really set it apart from everything else. I've ridden every single Softail as well as a bunch of others in the Harley Davidson family, and this bike really is great. Alright, so the speed's not why I bought this, even though that is one of the best things about this. It's very fast, but it's easy to access, to get the performance out of this motorcycle. The torque is so instantaneous and down low that you can rip out of corners and you can pull away really quickly. Like I said, it will lift the front wheel. The stage 3 kit's pretty awesome that way. However, you don't need the stage 3 kit. Okay, let's go back. I don't want to get run over. Holy moly. It's right about here that my GoPro mic failed, so I just bought a new one. So here I am getting on my Harley. It's fast, period. I'm just going to get into it right here, is that it has a very good lean angle. It has one of the top lean angles out there. It has a very compliant suspension, so you go over the bumps and it won't upset your line. Some of the other Harley Davidsons, if you turn into a corner, it kind of wanders a little bit. This one does not. The Fat Bob is a nice handler, but those fat tires make it hard to go from side to side. This one does not. It has a skinnier 110 front tire and it makes it able to lean in and hold it. The Fat Bob will also, because it's fat tires, want to pop right back up, where the Lowrider will hold that lean angle. Here I am going around a corner, just holding the lean angle, a little bit of counter steer, and then ripping right out of those corners with the torque. It's a lot of fun. I'm actually lifting the wheel out of this corner as well too. Now the wheelbase is longer than the Lowrider S, which means that it's more stable on the highway. And it's more stable going around a corner, where the Lowrider S is a little more agile. You can see this is pretty agile as well too, but it will hold a line better and it won't get upset by the bumps in the corners that you'll find. So that is one of the big benefits of this one, and it turns over and leans just as hard as the Lowrider S does. I really like the bars that I have on there. They're straight bars. Again, they're like flat tracker bars from Thrash and Supply. The buckhorn bars just do not cut it, and you need something like that. Now, the FXDR is a very nice handling motorcycle. It quickly flicks in. The clamshell seat position that you ride is not really good for getting out of your seat. You are locked into that seating position going around a corner, where here you can like use the pegs to jump out of your seat and go from side to side and actually ride it that way, or you can just sit in the seat and ride side to side. Either way works. Hello people. The comfort on this one is very similar to the comfort on the Live Wire. The Live Wire is very nice and cushy, and it goes from side to side very nicely. But this one does as well too. It takes a little bit more effort to turn it into a corner, but it's very neutral for a cruiser type motorcycle. In fact, I'll argue that this is really not a cruiser, but more of a standard. The Sportsters are a little more agile. They just get upset by the bumps, and they don't have the torque to pull through that the 107 Milwaukee 8 does. So overall, it's just the best handling Superman bike there is for Harley Davidson. I'm going to get into some of the different specifications and technical detail and why the Lowrider is the best of the Softail and the best in the Harley lineup. So you can get into that if you want. You can look at that if you want, or you can just enjoy some of the motorcycle riding video as is, and I appreciate it. All right, so let's get into it. Okay, we're going to compare bikes at Harley Davidson. So we have a few different bikes here from Harley Davidson's website. Let's get them all lined up. So we have 6 bikes. We're going to see what makes them the most compatible. We have Iron 1200, the Roadster, the Softail Standard, which is pretty good, Sport Glide, Fat Bob, and Lowrider S. And what makes the bike handle is obviously flickability, stability, agility, how it handles over the bumps, power to weight ratio, stability and flickability by length. Take a look at the Softail Standard, and the Sportsters there are shorter, obviously. Ground clearance is the big one too. You can see the Roadster has the most ground clearance of this bunch. Rake is a big one, and the flickability is stability by rake. Look at how the Lowrider says 28, the Sport Glide is 30, Fat Bob 28, and 28.9 and 30 for the Iron 1200 and Roadster. So Lowrider S will be more flickable with that higher steering rake. Trail, kind of the same thing, and wheelbase too. That is a lot. Now, tire size is really important for a Harley Davidson, especially for front tire. What I've noticed is the thinner the front tire, the smaller the front tire, the more flickable and agile it is. It won't hold the line as good, but it's more flickable. And you see the Lowrider S has a very small 110, even the Softail Standard is 100, but 110 for the Lowrider S and 150 for the Fat Pop, and that will make it a slower turn in and makes it want to pop back up. And the rear ones, the wider the rear, makes it want to pop back up as well too, is what I've noticed when riding. Obviously weight's important too. You're going to see a lot less weight on the Sportsters than you would on the Softails. You can see right there, the Softail Standard is almost over 20 pounds lighter than the Lowrider S, and Sport Glide's up there too. Fat Bob's right up there as well too. So Softail Standard is one of the lightest of the Softails, but there's some things that make it not as good handler as the best handling bike out there. Torque's important too. The way Harleys like to ride is obviously they don't really list their horsepower, but they list by torque. The Softail Standard is right there. Sport Glide. You can see where the torque comes in. 108 and 119 for the Lowrider S. That's quite a bit. Sport Glide again has its torque coming in a little bit lower, but 119 is pretty good. And you can see the low RPM that peak torque comes in. What I think is really important is the lean angle on the motorcycles. If you can't lean the bike, you can't really take advantage of the performance. When I had my Iron 1200, that 27 degree lean angle just didn't cut it. It's always scraping. I think you'll need at least a 29 degree lean angle. You see the Sport Glide just will scrape too. The Roadster Fat Bob can lean, but again, it does not. It wants to pop right back up, so you're always fighting it. And you can see the lean angles. The 30-degree lean angle, 30.1 for the Lowrider S is pretty good as well too. So right now it looks like the Lowrider S would probably be the best handler of this bunch, but we're going to go switch it up to the next bunch now. I have the Livewire, FXDR, Lowrider, and you can see the prices there. The Lowrider's the cheapest at $14,899, a lot cheaper than the rest. But the capacities are pretty good. And the Lowrider's two-seater as well too, where some of the other ones, such as the Softail Standard, are not. They're single-seater. All right, so let's get into dimensions and performance. Really interesting on the Lowrider. I'll talk about it in a bit. You can see the length there is the exact same as the Lowrider S. The bars are different, and we'll talk about those bars. You can see the shortness of the Livewire. Ground clearance. You can see the just really nice ground clearance of the Lowrider compared to the other Softails, except for the FXDR. That makes a big difference as well too, and you'll see why. Steering rake is going to be interesting, because on the Lowrider it's 30 degrees. You think, hey, it's not flickable. Well, it's flickable enough, but what it does, it adds a degree of stability in the turns that the Lowrider S does not have. You can see the higher steering rake on some of the Livewire and the FXDR. And again, the Lowrider is definitely a much more comfortable, cushier, stable bike than the Lowrider S. And that means it gets less upset in the bumps than the Lowrider S. And there's that skinny tire for the Lowrider, the 110, compared to the Sparklight. It's the same as the Lowrider S. So again, it does keep a lot of the agility, but it adds a degree of stability that the Lowrider S does not have. And that I really like. Obviously, FXDR and Livewire are a different story. And here's the weight. So the weight on this guy is on the Lowrider 661 compared to 679. So it's even less weight than the Lowrider S. So you have a better, so it's a good power to weight ratio. So it's still lighter weight than the other bikes there, except for the Livewire again. Different category. Performance. Get to engine torque. All right. So on engine torque, very interesting. As you see, the Lowrider has more torque than the Sportglide, even though it's the same engine. It's 110 versus 119 for the Lowrider S. The power to weight ratio on torque on this one is awesome. In a dragway with the Lowrider S, it's not going to be stock form, not that much different. It's lighter weight and close to torque. So we'll get to lean angle now as well too. There's our lean angle. All right. So the lean angle on the Lowrider is 29.6 left and right. It's just a scotch less than the Lowrider S. So it's almost 30 degrees, almost exactly the same as the Lowrider S. Again, Fat Bob has a little bit more, but it wants to pop back up. So yeah, not a huge fan on that. The lean angle on the FXDR and the Livewire is obviously a lot more. So all those factors together make the Lowrider the most stable, very agile, best handling of the Harley Davidson motorcycle lineup. There's one thing that you got to do to really utilize that, and that's change to the bars. Instead of the buckhorn bars, you need more of a tracker bars, similar to what the Fat Bob has, and I'll show you how I did that as well too. But with the price that you're paying, man, it's really an easy upgrade to do.